Good evening. This is Real Talk with Dr. Sundiata Chajua. Real Talk History as a Weapon for Black Liberation. Today's guest is none other than Naka Batts, the ear doctor, one of the co founders of Black Power Media. Um, Let me bring in the ear doctor. Greetings.
Peace. How you?
It is a pleasure.
Hey, it's an honor to be here. Real talk. Let's talk.
Let's talk. All right. Naka Batts was born in Trenton, New Jersey, came down to Atlanta, Georgia for Freaknik 93 and never left. Never left. There you go. He holds an African Studies degree from Morris Brown.
Yep,
From
yep.
1999 to 2002, he
Mm,
was a restaurant owner, owned Son's Pizza.
mm-hmm.
He is the producer and engineer of several podcasts, including Renegade Culture, 85 South, and the Remix Morning Show. And I
You
know y'all watching the Remix Morning Show.
come on. Remixes where you at?
Now, Brother Naka is a member of the Black Man Lab and the program manager of the Urban Technology Academy. And he's going to fill us in on all of those things and what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is a professional DJ and a father of two. Now,
Yeah.
Naka, are two boys, two girls, one of each? What you got?
I was blessed to have a girl and a boy. One boy 17, daughter 13.
That is wonderful. That is
Yeah.
wonderful. All right, I got a just turned 16-year-old granddaughter. And
Oh,
yeah,
how's
she's
that?
been living with us for 6 years. She wanted a different experience from Atlanta.
Ah.
Okay, so who
she,
thought I
she
was out that game?
hey, she making you younger.
That is true. That is true.
That's the beauty of it. You making her wiser, she making you younger.
There you go. Nothing but love.
No doubt.
Okay, my brother Naka.
Yeah.
Um, Real talk, because my partner is a psychologist, and
Hmm.
because I early on read William Cross, who I count as a friend. So his theory of negrescence, trying to get into the process by which one converts themselves from a quote unquote Negro to a black mentality. So I always begin with biographical questions to try and get at the process by which you became black and the process by which you were radicalized,
Hmm.
right? And so in your case, what I want you to do is help me understand how growing up in Trenton, New Jersey, during the time period that you did, and your class background, and the types of experiences that you had, the kinds of things that you read, the kinds of things that you observed, how did that make you into the ear doctor, a co-founder of Black Power Media?
Ooh, that is a question ace right there, boy. All right, so let's take it back. We'll start with big up to everybody in the chat room real quick. Leia, Q Anarchist, Big Till, Darren, everybody else. Peace, peace, peace. But let's go back to the root. If we're gonna start there, I have to start with my parents.
Sure.
My father was from Texas. He got into the Air Force and wound up moving to Trenton, New Jersey. My mom is from Alabama. She wound up looking for teaching. She went to go be a teacher, went up to Trenton. They met each other and wound up having me. Boom. So
So you're
it was
only child?
no, actually I'm not the only child. I have a sister. She was adopted. Uh Reason being they told my mom she couldn't have no more kids. Well, she couldn't have any kids. My mom, when she had me, she was like 42, 41, 42. So they told her she couldn't have no more kids. So they went ahead and adopted. Um, and then down the line, they was like, well, forget that. We're going to keep trying. So 7 years later, here I come. Actually, before me, my mom had a baby that died at birth and
Sorry to
then
hear that.
had me. And then the year later, she tried to have another one and he died at birth. So
Okay, so brother,
I'm supposed to be here.
yeah, you're
That,
supposed to be here
that's
in
my
good
mentality.
things.
Yeah. So with that mentality right there, saying, yo, all that happened, I'm supposed to be here. So I'm here for a reason and a purpose. All right. So you go to Trenton. Trenton, New Jersey is a grimy, dirty place, but you got a lot of different cultures where you got Italians, Puerto Ricans, uh, everybody. You got everybody. So it's like you're meeting all these different people, and you're not really understanding about the black power and all that stuff, having a consciousness of black people.
So what's the time frame we're dealing with here?
Okay, we talking about the 80s. All right, so
Okay.
I'll be 47 November 18th. My birthday is coming up. So yes, yes. So big up to all the Scorpios out there. But it was the 80s when we talking about growing up, and then what I'm seeing is my dad, he he was a dean of discipline, a principal at a school. My mom was a teacher that taught uh she taught home ec. So she
Okay.
taught home ec. My dad, he taught math, and he was a dean and a principal. So he also had real estate, and he also owned a laundromat.
Okay.
So he also was in an organization that helped the communities. So I'm seeing this at home before I
Hmm.
even get out into the street. This is what my parents had come from. They started doing Martin Luther King birthday celebrations before they started making Martin Luther King a celebration. So this is
Yeah,
like,
I got you. Yeah.
yeah, this is where I come from. And then what happens is I stay there for a while. Music. When we talking about music, my mom listened to gospel music. My dad listened to jazz.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, gospel all day. I had to. My uncle and aunt. My uncle was a preacher, so I had to go to church every Sunday. Baptist, Friendship Baptist Church.
Baptist. Okay, Baptist.
Yeah, Baptist church. So I had to do that every week, and I would just say that it was a combination of those two, and then at the same time they would have little parties. They had a little bar downstairs, invite friends over. They had the 8 tracks, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, and the vinyl,
Yeah.
and they had all the party music. So they had the party music plus whenever I got in my dad's truck, it was jazz. Whenever I got in my mom's car, it was gospel music. So thank goodness my sister next door was listening to hip hop. Well, let's say R&B,
Yeah,
Prince. She
yeah,
loved
yeah, yeah.
Prince and Michael Jackson and all them. But yeah, she listened to hip hop, and that's when I first heard like Run DMC and all them people.
So, so when you first heard hip hop, how did it hit you?
I mean, it
Was it revelatory,
it
transformative,
was
motivating?
it was all that. It was like something new. It was like it was a new type of vibration. Like I always say, music is a type of vibration. And this was the vibration of how disco music was rocking at the time. You had rock and roll music rocking at the time, and you had pop music. So this
Mhm.
was like a and jazz, because when you listen to hip hop, it's a combination of all that.
Right,
It's a
right.
combination of all those different musics coming together. So when I heard it, and then I heard the rhyme like the A B C D E F G, or rhyming like that, and it's easy to hear and remember and repeat. And
Hmm.
then they were saying stuff like "Don't push me because I'm close to the edge." Run DMC is like that, and that's the way it is. I mean, this was brothers standing up, getting on the microphone, and like, "Yo, this is me. This is our new generation." So when I see the new generation coming in now, like, "This is us," I'm like, "Oh, that was me."
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to the sonics, the lyrics, the performative, all of that is what attracts you to hip hop.
All of that. I mean, the fashion, the whole culture of it. It's because, like I said, hip hop is a culture. And what we did is we dressed within that culture. We had
Mhm.
slang. We talked within that culture, dancing within that culture, had our own dances. And we even spray painted, did art within the culture. So it had all those different elements within this culture that we were doing. And it wasn't something that was from the past. It was what was now and present. So it was it. It was beautiful.
So did you become a DJ at a young age?
Not at all. I started off as an MC
Ah,
rapping.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be the next biggest rapper. Um, I mean, and you know, it's funny. Back in the day when Run DMC came out, I went and got the church hat like Run DMC. When LL came out, I went and got the terry cloth
Mm,
Kango. When New Edition came out, I got the Kangos and all types of stuff.
okay.
So we very much emulated the styles of what everybody was
That's right,
doing.
reflecting the culture.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, that when I seen all that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm here. I'm a and then being an MC, I also was a poet. So I used to write rhymes, write, and I would get up and perform, do talent shows and stuff like that. Did pretty good. And then later on, moved from Jersey to Alabama, but you know, we could get to all that. Started rocking with a rap group. Um, was gonna sign with a record label, but they was gonna take all our royalties, so we said no.
good,
Um,
good, good.
they was trying to get us, boy. They was trying to get us. But then you know, later on, I just did it for love. I started rhyming with an Afrobeat band.
Ah,
Um, yeah, and that's when I got
it's
introduced to
still in
Playland.
Trenton. Is this still in Trenton or is this in Alabama?
This is in Atlanta. We can go back
Okay.
to Trenton. I know I don't went so far.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But no, no,
But
that's cool. That's what I wanted you to do.
yeah.
So, was there a particular group or artist that influenced you?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, my first big influence was Run DMC. My second big influence, I would have to say, is KRS One. And
Mm,
with KRS One, it was just how he got the crowd hype, how good he was with spitting lyrics, and then the fact that he had content that he was talking about
hmm.
something. And then the later albums after the first album was on some gangster,
Right,
you know,
right.
Criminal Minded. That's the name of his first album. But just that whole how he rhymed and everything was great. But then the second album we got by all means necessary, then that starts
With the
opening you up
Malcolm
to
pose, right? You got the Malcolm pose on the cover. Yeah, yeah,
exactly,
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So then you start learning about okay, why he do that? Why is he got the Malcolm X? Why is this called by all means necessary? Then you start learning about Malcolm X. He talks about it in the music,
Hmm.
talks about different people that did different things, and then you start be like, oh, he's not just rhyming, he's teaching.
That's right.
So that's what
Well,
I
he was called a teacher, wasn't it?
yes,
Yeah,
Karis One, the
absolutely.
blast master teacher. Yeah. So Karis One definitely.
So now, um, I want you to talk about how hip hop has evolved over time,
Mm,
and I want you to be expansive in the sense that I want you to talk about subject matter, lyricism. You know, I mean, we're a
yeah.
long ways from "Don't push me, I'm close to the edge," right? Um, in terms of the sonics,
Mm.
right, and the lyricism. I want you to talk about production, audience, ownership, and the role of hip hop in the industry and society. So that's a hell of a lot.
Oh, I
So,
love it. I love it.
you know, I want you to just I'll give you some space to spread out and give us your sense of how this culture
Mhm.
has developed over time and the impact that it's had has changed, etc. So,
Okay. Even with what you saying about Melly Mel saying, "Don't push me, I'm close to the edge." The cadence might have changed, but right now it's still the same. It's more of what he's saying because it's more of how these children and the youth right now are dealing with emotions. They're dealing with stuff they're going through, and they're actually putting them on track. So even with him
mhm,
saying like, "Yo," he's actually being vulnerable. Like, "Yo, don't push me right now. I'm close to the edge." So a lot of the music now is emulating that in a way where it's not just about certain things. The youth have they're actually expressing the feelings with how we was taught, don't express your
hold it
feelings
in.
to a
Okay.
man. Yeah,
So,
hold it in.
question of mental health has you're saying there's is much more open
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
contemporary music, even though you can find the link, because clearly that's what Melly Mel is saying. You
Exactly.
about to send me off
You
on
about
you.
to so don't get it. But going back to the
But
beginning
give me some examples,
of
right? In other words, provide some evidence here
okay, evidence on which part?
on the part that contemporary hip hop
Oh, okay.
is taking up the questions of mental health.
Okay, well, you got certain people like Kendrick Lamar.
Uh,
You got certain people like J. Cole, Joey Badass. You got brothers like the XX Testacion. Yeah, I don't even know if I said his name right, but y'all know how I do. And then some other a lot of these younger artists are actually just singing, and they're singing, rapping, and singing about how they feel, how they, some sisters, even Cardi B,
mhm.
a bunch of them. They're just talking about how they feel now. Before, like Drake, when Drake first started singing and getting all the ladies with expressing himself, being vulnerable, we was like, oh, here he go. He's doing this weak, emotional stuff. But this is what
Yeah.
people was waiting to hear. They was tired of
Mhm.
hearing the bravado and I'm gonna kill you. We got all the money over here. It was actually something being said. Even with me listening to like Jay-Z, I didn't really connect with Jay-Z until the 444 album, when he actually started talking about his life, how he's
Mhm.
dealing with his wife, how he's dealing with his kids, how he's dealing with his mom, the psychological aspect of it all. You know what I'm saying? So what they're doing now is they're really pushing
Got
that
it.
there. But when the question you asked before about hip hop and how it got from back then to where it is now,
Yeah.
then you will have to go back to, you know, a lot of people don't like to say his name, Africa Bambaataa, but
Oh.
the thing
Yeah. Yeah.
is, the thing is,
The
it,
Sonics.
it was not even that. It was about getting these gangs off the street. That's what hip hop culture was about. It was about, that's why it has its elements. Its elements wasn't just DJing, MC and graffiti, b-boying. It was about community. It was about having knowledge of yourself, and
Mhm.
beatboxing, different elements more than just those four. So it was about, all right, let's get this gang over here, and let's bring this gang over here. So he connected the different boroughs with that music.
Right.
And it was about promoting, it was like, if you take it back to Africa, it was about being that griot. It was about being a griot and talking about
Mhm.
what's going on in the community. And then you had the DJ that was back in Africa playing the drums, which would be the circle to call everybody in, so the griot could let everybody know what's going on in the community, tell them stories for the kids, for the adults. So it was nothing but just something that's been here before, passed down. And now, as you go on from the 80s, it was you still have people like Slick Rick talking about and Houdini talking about Project Ho, and
Yeah.
it was disrespect then too, because it was a lot of these brothers that was just getting money, getting on the road, and sniffing cocaine, smoking weed, drinking, and living that type of lifestyle. So this is what they rhymed about. So that's what they rhymed
Somebody
about.
put forward the theory that the first album would usually be about actual experiences that they had in the
Yeah,
neighborhood. And the second album, they would be influenced by having been on the road, and it
exactly.
would that toxic masculinity would manifest itself in the second album, the
Mm-hmm.
bling bling and all of that. But
Yes.
usually not so much in the first album. Would you say
Yeah. Oh,
that's accurate?
definitely. Looking at Biggie, Ready to Die album, his first album, it was a culmination of his life experiences brought to one album, from starting the beginning of his life to now. So then, now what you're doing, once you get this first album out, you're on the road, you're flying in jets, you're in hotels, big hotels, you're buying clothes, you're buying jewelry, diamonds, ice, all that. What are you
Hmm.
going to talk about? Your life and what's going on in your life. It's all this whole new experience of marketing and talking about these different, like, even with Versace, you know, it was a clothes style and design to wear, and it just blew up. It was all about this is what I'm wearing. Back in the day, it was Louis Vuitton, it was MCM, it was all these different things like Slick Rick and LL Cool J and Salt and Pepper was wearing. We was like, ooh, we got to get those fly gears.
Right.
I remember I had to get some Bally shoes because the Big Daddy came. And these Bally shoes was $100. My dad was like, "Are you crazy? You what?" He was like, "They shoes." Okay, I get you some shoes. So it was that, and then once these companies started seeing how much influence these rappers was having, then the company was like, "Let me throw you some money.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and give you some money, and you can keep throwing out our name." So then the rappers start looking for the different names to start mentioning, so they can bring in some more money. So it stopped being about the culture, stop being about telling what's the story, what's going on in the neighborhood, and this, that, and the third, trying to uplift. So, all right, let's get this money. So right now it's about let's get this money. Let's say what they gotta say. Let's come up with a new dance that everybody can imitate and go viral instead of all right, let me put some real content and uplift. But at now they're saying it's about just creating a vibe. And the vibe is more about not even about the lyrics, it's about the beat, the harmony, and the melody. So it's no
Mhm.
longer about the lyrics anymore like that for some people. But there are some MCs that's out there still about the lyrics. So, you know.
Okay, so tell me, how has the production changed?
The production has changed where it seems less musical, maybe.
What do you mean by that?
Where you had a lot of instrumentation. You had samples and stuff being chopped from jazz instruments and stuff like
Okay.
that. And you would use that and it would get redone like by great producers like Pete Rock and Lord Finesse and different people like that, where they would chop it up and use that instrumentation. Now it's more computer, like
Mm.
it's just a bass line, a 808, a bass line and a tat 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 tat, and it's like as long as we could keep this same bass line and its vibration. Now, when I say vibration, you know, I always talk about like chakras and stuff. That's dealing with your root chakra. That 808 sound is like, so it's
Okay,
really
well,
dealing.
let me slow your roll,
Okay.
just in case someone is listening and they don't know what a chakra is.
Okay.
So what do you
A,
mean,
a
a chakra?
chakra is like a whirlpool of energy in you. You have like 7 different chakras in your body, they say. So you got like a crown chakra, you got a nose, throat chakra, heart chakra, um, I forget the different ones, but then you got your root chakra, which is down by your
Right here.
genitalia area. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that right there is like that's what manifests at that time. If you listen to like light music, like classical jazz or something that's light, it's more
Hmm.
hitting your head, your crown chakra, like the
Okay.
vibration around your brain. You know what I'm saying? It's certain tones and notes that are hit that allows you to, you know, work different pulls. There's certain, you know how they say certain songs can pull on your heartstrings,
Hmm.
pulling on your heart chakra. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Okay.
Certain tones and things that they're saying. You know, even with lyrics, they say it's a spell. It's pretty much just spells over beats. You know what I'm saying? So it's a deep music is very deep.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
So now, talk to me about audience and ownership and their impact in this regard.
Okay. Audience and ownership. I
Yeah.
think right now a lot of people are realizing, you know, let me go and not sign to a record label so I don't get a 360 contract where I'm gonna be on this record label money for the rest of my life. They're realizing that they can do it their own by creating their own social media and getting their own distribution and just paying for the distribution and getting their music out there and making their money through streaming. So now it's a whole lot more towards let me do it myself. But then you got some that don't want to do all that extra work. Some just want to be an artist And I don't knock anybody for their choices. Some just want to be an artist and want to sit back and work on their art and let the record label handle all that extra stuff. I'll take less. Just let me work on my art. Whereas then you have an independent person that has to work more but might spend less time on their art because they're so busy marketing, promoting,
Mm,
doing this, that, and the third. So you got your positives and negatives.
okay. And does black ownership matter
Oh, definitely.
in terms of production, quality, message, subject matter?
Yeah, because you're able. Look at Black Power Media. I mean, we say what we want, and that's the thing. We don't have to answer to anybody. We don't
Yeah,
have to. When
but
it
let
comes,
me push you here. Black Power Media has a has a very specific political focus.
mm,
Um,
what would you say?
you can't say the same for Def Jam, Rockefeller, right?
Their focus
Death
is money.
Row, in terms of a progressive radical push.
Oh, their focus is capitalism, is money. Our focus is liberation.
Okay, but then why would black ownership matter if its focus, if the focus was simply capitalism, when white companies' focus is capitalism?
Well, that's the thing. I would rather have people I can relate to around me so then I can more likely touch and talk to them and be like, this is how I want it ran. I understand how y'all do business, but understand this. This is how I want to do business. So even if you got a person that's black owner and running stuff, it's more like you can work with this person. Like even with like say politics. Like even I'm not even big on all the voting and stuff like that, but I deal in a circle where I deal with a lot of different politicians. I was going to write a book. I know we a little bit off of what I was thinking.
No, no,
I was
no,
going
brother.
I
I
was going to
told you
write
to
a
be expansive.
yeah, yeah. I was going to write a book like Spook that sat behind the door, the DJ that stood behind the turntables.
Ah, okay.
Cuz I mean, the thing is I get to meet and listen to so many great minds. When I'm engineering, when I'm doing just sound for somebody, when I'm DJing, it's so many different people and politicians and this, that, and the third. Yeah, I'm not big on the whole politics stuff, but these people come to our organization. So they come and speak to us.
Hmm.
So therefore, at least if that person comes around and we have some type of relationship, I can hold them more accountable than I can with somebody I can't even touch or speak to, which is of a
But
different mind state.
um, I
I
don't know
know
if
I
you're
went everywhere.
familiar. I know you're familiar with Nelson George, the music critic, right?
Nah, put me on.
Oh man, um, close to Chris Rock, but he's written a number of books on African American music.
Mm,
Um, he was a writer for the Village Voice, I think, initially.
mhm,
But he did a book in '89 called "The Death of Rhythm and Blues,"
hmm,
and I always thought that that was his best book. One, because it's popular, not scholarly, but he puts forward two theses that I've always found insightful.
mm,
So, one, he argues that black music, that of course, each generation of black folk create a musical genre, right? So we had a spiritual generation. Those who were enslaved created the spirituals. Freedom comes, and you get gospel, you get the blues, right? A little bit later, you get jazz, ragtime jazz,
mhm.
on and on, right? R&B. And so one of the things that he argues is that as a black musical genre gains popularity and seeps through the veil, I'm riffing on W.B. Du Bois, right?
Okay.
The veil.
Mhm.
Um, that white people take it on, and if they begin to take it on a lot, and and invade and begin to appropriate, black people drop that genre and move largely toward a new genre that they create that's harder for white people to get. Amir
Mhm.
Baraka makes a similar argument in blues people,
Mm.
right? In fact, he argues that early on, the blues was incomprehensible to white folks, that they couldn't find a way into it, right? And one could certainly say that early on with hip hop, they couldn't find a way into it,
Mm.
early hip hop. And then once they found their way, we got the goddamn Marky Mark, we got all kind of stuff, right? And there's also a shift in subject matter and focus. So he argues that black musical forms respond in reaction to the appropriation of white folk and that we evolve new musical forms. Now, I was saving this, but I think this is the appropriate time to ask that, right?
Hmm.
Um, we know that hip hop as culture and our focus on the music here has changed over time, has evolved, right? In lyrics and subject matter, in the sonics, all of that. And so here's my question: white people have had a big impact on contemporary hip hop that they didn't necessarily have early on. And so my question is, are we due for the emergence of a new genre, or are we talking about um, transformation within hip hop?
What?
Because we always create, Miles, my brother who did the book on Miles Davis, the poet, whose name escapes me right now, out of St. Louis, Quincy Troop. Quincy
Okay.
Troop argues that Miles Davis himself created 7 iterations of jazz.
Mm.
So there's always going to be evolution. So my question is, how does hip hop respond to the appropriation and its transmutation by white capitalists and hustlers?
Huh. That is a question. How does it, because like you said, everything does evolve. Even like slang. We used to say fresh. And then when other people started saying fresh, we was like, we moving on to the next word. That's
Yeah,
dope.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
hot. That's, you know what I'm saying? We
yeah. That's what
always,
we do.
yeah, we
So,
always.
so my question is, can you project what do you see happening in hip hop that suggests that a similar process
That we
is
have to hold
occurring?
on to it.
Yeah. That
And
we're trying to make it a little bit make it harder
mm,
for them to appropriate and move it in a particular direction,
yeah,
in an
how,
apolitical direction, in a
yeah.
direction that emphasizes bling bling and gangster, that raises up an arch criminal like Jay-Z and that fool Kanye West.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, this music is putting us, is saving people's lives, is making them money, and they're looking at, okay, what can I say at this time that's going to attract people to relate to me, that's going to make them want to be what they see on the movie screen, on the TV. Just like I said before, when I seen Big Daddy Kane, I wanted to get the high top fade. I wanted to emulate all these things that I seen, because these was, to us, was our superheroes. To some of us, especially when you was looking at, like, if you're a diehard hip hop fan, and you would see these, you'd be like, yo, this is what I want to be. And then you're looking at like how, all right, capitalism is going to constantly stay looking at hip hop and being like, all right, they're going to track and be like, okay, what are they going to do next? Like, even with algorithms, like, all right, what's next?
Mhm.
Because, all right, so you went from, all right, you went from the 80s where you had a certain type of a beat. And you had a certain type of melody and cadence and stuff like that. You went to the 90s where it evolved with like Nas coming and rhyming, where it was more of a flow to it with
Jazz
content.
influence, yeah, yeah.
Yes. And then it had a beat. And like you said, I know I'm going all over the place, but like you said, even with R&B dying, capitalism is like, we got to make money. Everybody ain't in love, and a lot of R&B is about love. Now, when you go to hip hop, it's not all about love. It's about what you wearing. Some is about love, teenage love, love's gonna get you, all types of stuff like that. But it's more than just love. And if they can't make no money off of love, they gonna go to the next one. Like I said, and there's so much more to make money off of when it comes to hip hop. So people
I'd
gonna be.
love to have this discussion with you. I
Mhm.
think that R&B actually, particularly in the '70s, but even in contemporary periods, um, has been more political, more progressive than most hip hop in the same era. But that's for another conversation. That's another conversation.
Yeah, but
Um,
back to your question though. How do we
yeah,
stop
yeah. What's
corporate
happening?
America from
What's happening
evolving?
to distance it from the mess that's coming out from the white
I would
invasion?
I would almost have to go back to what you saying by black ownership. Just by us having our own and being able to say what we want instead of having to say what rappers have to say to get sales. And
Okay, but our own in this case,
it's
this
hard.
this is the second point that George made. Remember, I said he had 2 points. One
Mhm.
was that we constantly tried to evolve the music once white people began to invade, that we would kick to a new genre. We'd invent a new genre. The other thing he argued is that the innovative aspect of black music was mediated through small black owned companies.
Yeah.
So Motown, um, once it gets Al
Once it gets big, nationwide or
Al
worldwide.
Davis involved, you get what is it? It's good God, Stax, Stax
Stacks.
Vote,
Yeah, Stacks
right?
Records. Yeah.
Becomes a black owned company, and of course the big capitalists kill it. But the question is about it being small as well as being black, right?
Mm.
Because Jay Z's label is black owned.
Yeah.
At least that's what we're led to believe. And I don't see anything positive coming out of that. I don't
You
see anything positive
it
coming out
it
of
depends on what art
Kanye West.
it depends on what artist you're talking about.
Okay, well,
'Cause
give me an example.
yeah, I mean, you got different type of artists where he'll have a Rihanna, and Rihanna will sing a song like Love on the Brain. Like, it's certain songs that will deal with love, will deal with, picking yourself up and getting out of your gloomy state. But will it talk about down with capitalism? Mm.
Will it talk about black liberation?
Will it talk about
Will
black
it talk about
liberation?
black unity?
See,
Will it talk
see,
about struggle?
see, that's the thing. To a lot of people, liberation is getting money. So if you want to get liberated, to now let's think about it. A lot of people look at liberation as getting money. So you can get money, you can get out of your condition, and then you can do stuff you want to do. So people are like, let me get the money, then possibly I can change the situation. But what happens sometimes is they get so involved in getting the money, they can't go backwards and try to be like, all right, well, let me bring in the liberation, because they get stuck. It's like, oh no, we want to hear that gangster shit now. You done got us hooked to the gangster. You can't go back. That's like when Mary J. Blige was singing about heartbreak. As soon as she got married and started talking about love, well, nobody trying to hear no Mary J. Blige. But then through time, the people grew with her and was like, okay. But then she broke up and started talking about heartbreak again, and people was like, okay, Mary's back. So it's like you almost get pigeonholed where you can't go back. I don't even like to say the word can't, because you can always do whatever. But
Well, I want to go further because I don't think capitalism is just about love for money, right?
mhm,
In other words, you have a lot of people who love money, but they work for their money. Capitalists exploit other people's labor,
mm,
right? I mean, Jay Z's in my language, he's a goddamn criminal because he exploits labor, right? Not just because of his, I mean, his subject matter, I find generally to be hideous, but he exploits labor. And he,
How does he exploit labor?
yeah, you think the people that sign get a deal in which they receive the remuneration that they've earned for the work that they put in? You think the companies that he invests in are companies that pay an adequate wage?
I wouldn't. I don't
Of
know.
course not.
I can't. I
No, he's a
can't.
capitalist. You
Well,
can't
I
you
can't
can't be a
speak because I
capitalist
can't look at
without
the books.
exploiting labor.
But when you talk about like Diddy or something like that, I've heard artists come out and be like, "Yo, Diddy wasn't paying right." Jay-Z, I don't. He don't really put a lot of people on, so I can't really say him exploiting people when they record contracts. I've not heard any of his artists come out like they have for Diddy. Like a bunch of people came out for Diddy and was like,
Mhm.
"Yo,
Yeah.
but not really Jay-Z." I can't
Okay.
even front on that.
Well, I think that the whole nature of capitalism is an exploitive relationship. And therefore, if you are engaged in a capitalist labor relationship, labor is being exploited. But I agree with you. We'd have to look at some of the contracts, we'd have to look at the
Yeah.
investments, but you don't become a billionaire in this world uh, paying adequately.
Let me ask you this: Is there such thing as a revolutionary billionaire? I mean, can you be
No.
a billionaire and be revolutionary?
I imagine that there were periods in an earlier era where there were members of the bourgeoisie,
Mhm.
right, who who committed class suicide. That is to say, Frederick Engels, right? He took the wealth of his father and poured it into the building of the writing of Marx and the building of the International Working Men's Party. So yeah, you do have the occasional capitalist who takes their wealth and pushes it toward revolution, but it's an extraordinarily rare thing.
Didn't Kanye just do that?
Do what?
Commit class suicide?
To Kanye West? Didn't that son of a gun just join the fascists?
I no, I asked you a question. Didn't he just
No.
commit
How
class
did he
suicide?
commit it?
We
How
was
did
just
he
talking
commit
about
class
billionaires, and
suicide?
you said class committing class suicide. I was just saying like
How
he
did
just did that.
Kanye commit class suicide? How did he commit himself to using wealth to
He getting kicked
liberate?
out of the classes he's in.
Huh?
He's getting kicked out of all those classes that he was in when it comes to these designers. They not even allowing him.
No, no,
I
no. He
gotta
ain't
do it.
getting kicked out of classes. He's getting
I
kicked
gotta
out
DJ
of
a wedding. I
particular
gotta DJ.
industries.
Yeah,
He's
but I'm
getting
saying I
kicked
gotta
out of particular industries. But that's not class. Class suicide is a conscious decision to use your wealth against your class.
mm,
He's not
okay.
using his wealth against capitalism. He's now, because there's a public uproar, because he's a raving lunatic, an anti Semite, right? Constantly disparaging black folk. I mean, he's been on an anti-black mission for about a decade now,
Yeah.
right? That foolishness about slavery was a choice.
Yeah, I mean, even the music after a
He
while,
wasn't
like
kicked. You see, he didn't lose
everybody.
those when he was doing that, and it was just black folk he was attacking.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't losing those
But see,
those brands, was he?
that's why I was saying, like, even the old Kanye, everybody says they love was good because after a while, Kanye just started talking about disrespecting women, calling
Yeah,
them whores, sluts. I was just like, damn, are you gonna rap about anything else besides this? How you having sex with women and what kind of clothes you got on?
yeah. I mean, it was it's horrible. But my point is to say that I don't want us to drill down on this too deeply. But it was initially to say that Nelson George raised two arguments. That
Mhm,
was one, that there is a tendency within African American musical culture, and I would say probably African American culture, to, as white people begin to appropriate, to create something new,
mhm,
right? And the other tendency, he argued, was that innovation, sonically, lyrically, and subject matter, generally occurred in small black-owned companies. And so, what I was trying to get at, are there any small ventures that are putting together a different set of artists, artists who are doing something different from what you hear on the radio?
I would say the new vibration is going to Afrobeat. Reason
Okay.
I'm saying that is because it's danceable music, and you can say stuff like you got Burner Boy. He's been doing doing Fela cuts over. Like
Hmm.
if people that know Fela, he would have political music. So he's
That's right.
doing Fela cuts over, and he's able to put a little message here, sprinkle some here and there. But the thing is, with that music, is you're able to dance with it, and it's more worldwide. With trap music that you listen to here in America, it's more here in America, and you can't really dance. You just do like this. But
Yeah.
when it comes to Afrobeat, when it comes to pop music, when it comes to soca, you can dance. So it's more universally heard. So I
Okay.
would say it would probably go that way because you can rhyme and sing over these tunes.
So what U.S. based artists are beginning to really pull on Afrobeat? Because what's
All
interesting
of
is
them.
that it's
Drake.
been okay. That's what we talking about. Okay, so that's the innovation I should be looking for,
Hmm.
and it demonstrates the whole Pan African linkage.
Yeah.
Because when you were talking earlier, and you were making a very profound point when
Hmm.
you said that the griot,
Yeah.
that the music that was in the past, the African drummer had reemerged,
Hmm.
right, in hip hop, and that you were making that historic link.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really important. During the time that hip hop was rising in the late '80s, early '90s, um, my oldest daughter used to get one of those fashion magazines aimed at teens.
Word up and
No,
all
no,
those.
no, aimed at white teens, general teens, right?
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
she had the word up stuff too, but she had this thing, and I read an article about hip hop in it,
Hmm.
and they literally did use the term jungle music.
I love it.
And that's the same thing they said in the 1920s about jazz. This
Yeah.
is jungle music,
Those are
all
those
those
are niggas
implications.
music.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now this might come off as contentious, but I don't mean it to be contentious. But I'm still trying to understand some things. Now,
Hold on,
obviously,
hold
go
on.
ahead.
I'm on Real Talk, everybody. Let somebody know right now. I'm on one of the dopest shows right here on Black Power Media. Let somebody know Real Talk with the dot. Let's go.
Thank you, brother.
No doubt.
Appreciate it. And I'm on with the ear. I got the ear doctor as my guest,
Two
and
doctors.
and he will be back at some point. So, ear doctor.
Go ahead.
Um, I want to think in terms of generations. Now, obviously, you and I are a generation apart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that second wave of the baby boomers, what I call the Black Power generation. We were the people that Kwame Ture was speaking to when he shouted Black Power. We were the young folks in junior high and high school who rallied to the cause. So that when Bobby Seale does that census of the Black Panther Party in 1969,
Mm-hmm.
and the average age of a Panther is 19, right?
Okay.
I'm in that generation, but I was a little bit younger than the 19, right? But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, the point being that that generation is different from the hip hop generation.
Yeah.
And so even though one can go back and we can find all kind of politicalization in the music, right? I can go to the blues and I can show you Bessie Smith songs, Led Belly, Skip James, right? But
Mm-hmm.
in R&B, the 70s is not just Marvin Gaye, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a trend because whenever the movement is strong, it filters throughout the entirety of the culture and black social institutions.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as a Black Power generation youth, um, as much as I loved R&B, I never thought that my political leadership, my revolutionary leadership, would come out of the entertainment industry.
Mm.
And one of the things that I've always found interesting in terms of the hip hop generation, I once had a young man in my course on black nationalism, this must have been like 93, declare Ice Cube the new Malcolm X. And I think that there's a tendency amongst hip hoppers, the hip hop generation, to see their artists as more than just cultural artists and to look there for political leadership.
Hmm.
And so I wonder what accounts for that difference
So you
in
said,
generations.
so I guess with that generation, you did have Isley Brothers singing "Fight the Power." You did have James Brown, "I'm Black and I'm Proud." You
Mhm.
had Nina Simone. I mean, you had
Yeah,
artists.
we had a lot of artists. Yeah.
Yeah, but you saying y'all never looked at them as like a Malcolm X or the lyrics. Well, if you hear Death Certificate album by Ice Cube, you'll understand what he's talking about.
Well, I have,
Okay, okay. I
but I
mean,
never thought Ice Cube would be Malcolm X. I just thought that Ice Cube for that brief moment was conscious.
okay, well, let me ask you this. After Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, what leaders have we had on a national level?
That's a good question, and you know the answer as well as I do.
That's right.
Well, no, 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 no. Let me say it. Um, Karl Marx had this phrase where he said that the first time tragedy, the second time farce. So
Mhm.
I'm going to say that we did have two leaders after Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were assassinated, and one of them was Jesse Jackson, and the other one was Louis Farrakhan.
Mhm.
But I
So,
get your point.
but the thing
That's
is,
why I said first time tragedy,
yeah,
Malcolm X and King. The second time farce,
and
Jesse
we
Jackson and
our
Louis
leaders
Farrakhan.
our leaders are the ones that get on microphones. Let's think about it. When we talk about going back to slavery, the person that got on the microphone was the pastor. That was the only person that could get on the microphone back then. It went from that pastor being the leader of the community. And then later on, you had politicians, black people that got on the microphones. Then we listened to them. We was like, okay, we had Malcolm, we had Martin, and those were preacher, a preacher of both Islam and of Christianity. So the only people that had a cadence, that
Hmm.
had a crowd, that had anything like that were entertainers. So logically, the
But
only
not just entertainers,
people,
hip hop artists, right? I mean,
hip
people
hop.
wasn't following the movie star. We love Denzel, but we ain't necessarily raising him up like that.
I mean, Harry Belafonte,
Yeah, but Harry Belafonte was engaged in the movement.
he
He
was
was
engaged
engaged
in
in
the movie.
actual activity.
Yeah.
But no, I like what you're saying because there is a void.
Hmm.
There's a real void that the hip hop generation grows up with,
Yeah.
and for a moment, rappers stepped into it,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Rappers stepped into it. They had a microphone, they had a beat, they had a crowd, and they were saying something. Chuck
Yeah,
D, Rakim. I
yeah.
mean, how they brought, you know,
Boots.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was like these are the ones. That's why when people be like, you worship entertainers and stuff like that. This is who the mass is looking and listening to.
Well, it's a griot tradition, isn't it?
It's a griot tradition. So
So
why do we get mad when they be like these entertainers? These are the ones with the microphone and the cameras in their face. So therefore, who else do we follow that has a mic and a voice?
so how do you account for in the late 80s, early 90s, you got Public Enemy,
Mhm.
you got X Clan, you got KRS-One, you got a plethora
Yeah.
of hip hop artists who are pushing a message of black unity, black liberation struggle, right?
Mhm.
Um, we know gangster rap historically eliminates that, but how do you account for, like in contemporary period, who's comparable to Public Enemy or even the Coup, meaning that they have a audience?
Mhm.
I know there are a number of conscious and progressive rap, but they don't seem to have the audience that Public Enemy
Well,
had.
here's the
Or
difference.
am I wrong?
No, no, here's the difference. The difference is that now, back then we only could go to the radio. Now you can go to the internet and find artists. So people don't even listen to the radio no more. We had one central place where we could listen to these artists, the radio or TV.
Okay.
Now it's so many different artists that actually have consciousness, that's talking about something, that's putting
So
some
they're on the
positive.
streaming channels.
Yeah, you can go find them. But what's going to be on the radio? Why would we expect what we would call our enemy to play conscious music on the radio? I mean,
Well, the other thing here is that there's also been a sharp drop in ownership of black ownership of radio stations,
because
of media in general, right?
it's the social media.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I used to be a radio personality and DJ before COVID came. COVID
Mm.
stopped and we couldn't go back to the studio no more. So a lot of people just stopped going to the studio and realized I don't have to go to a place. Just like, I mean, social media came and 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 pretty much took the middleman away. Once social media came, we could do everything ourselves. We didn't have to only listen to the radio. We can go find music. We can go find what we're looking for. So that's what a lot of these youngsters are doing. They're going to find what they want to listen to. And we, as elders, not talking to them, think that they only listen to the radio, which is a farce. It's not true at all.
So that begs this question: in order to have broad impact, do we need them? Like
We need Black
we
Power
say,
meeting.
yeah, yeah, okay. That's where. Thank you. Going to give a shout out for us.
That's what we need.
That's what we
That's what we
need.
need. And
Yeah.
the thing is about Black Power Media is that we talk about not just having one thought. We're all about liberation. That's where we stand. You know what I'm saying? We stand on that. We're gonna have difference of opinions and this, that, and the third. But our thing is about liberation. So with me, what I bring to the channel, even like on the Remix Morning Show, is I bring history, I bring comedy, I bring a breakup, something to show even a lot of conscious intellects stay in a pocket and they never know what's going on in the outside world.
That's true.
So what I do is I bring in some of that outside world so they can stay hip. Hip hop is about being hip. If you're not hip, you know what I'm saying? Then you're lost. You're still in this little bubble. So I want to make sure that I bring in that and comedy and humor because we need it. We've gone through so much pain and strife through our times in America and on this planet that we need a good laugh sometime. We need good music sometime. We need to remember certain historians and different people that contribute to our culture so we could be like, oh, they did it. I could do it too. And that's what I got out of learning our history. It's like,
But
oh, I got all these different role models that's done something that I can do because I see them do it.
certainly the history of black comedy
Mhm.
is a highly politicized history. I mean, you
Oh,
go Dick Gregory, Richard Pryor, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle.
mhm.
I mean, there's some real profound things. I heard something about Roy Wood Jr. on Trevor Noah's show some time back when he was talking about whether or not Idris Elba would become the new James Bond.
Yeah.
And you heard the bit,
I didn't hear the bit, but
but the
I
bit was essentially, if that happens, you know how white folks reacted when we had half a fish. I talking about Little Mermaid. He said that white folks would invade our classics, and you'd end up with a white
oh yeah, okay,
private.
yeah. I seen those. That was funny.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, stop
yeah,
chasing that. Stop chasing that as the top James Bond thing. I mean, Tom Cruise was like, "Fuck it, I ain't gonna be James Bond. Let me do Mission Impossible."
yeah.
It's so many. You create something new. Go back and do
There you go.
what
That's
was
the
your boy
culture.
Carl Weathers back in the day?
Yeah,
Carl Weathers, Action Jackson.
yeah.
Where's
Well,
Double Action Jackson?
I was gonna go beyond that. I mean, think about when Jim Brown, uh,
Exactly. Fred
Fred the
Williamson.
Hammer Williamson,
Yes.
and Jim Kelly uh, did that piece where the white folks was trying to poison the water in the big cities where black folks were three the hard way.
Read the hard way. Yeah.
You know, let's see some of that. Let's see black stars come together and do a piece. Right?
Well,
But
well,
yeah, yeah.
thank goodness for my homeboy Jay-Z for putting out The Harder They Fall, that cowboy movie with Idris and all them, and putting that story out there.
Yeah, though the history was you know they misdid the history, right?
I mean, yeah, but you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah,
That's the whole thing. I mean, we had this debate with Jared all the time about, sometimes it being out there allows us to do the research ourselves. If we never knew about it, we would have never went and researched. So for some, yeah, they're gonna think that's the history, but for others, they're gonna be like, hold up, let me go research now and find out the truth. So it's an opening.
I see. I hear you, but I see that you're determined to try and clean up this right wing sob. But all right, I don't want to get mired in that because I am clearly, I found 444 to be atrocious. But anyway,
What?
let's not go. Yeah,
Why was
yeah,
why
that's just capitalist nonsense.
why did you feel it was atrocious?
It was a right wing album. Yeah.
How? I'm ignorant. Please school me.
Okay. Well, he's talking about capitalists buying up the hood. So he's saying, the money that you make from selling dope,
Hmm.
clean it up by buying property
Hmm.
in the hood so that you essentially go from a white capitalist owner, landlord, real estate mogul to black capitalist landlord real estate moguls who are going to behave in the same logic of capital. You also have a story in there in which the Carter family, in effect, evolved into royalty, which is interesting that these capitalists want to go back to another mode of production with royalty. So I just found it to be just right wing on all of the questions that mattered.
So that one song,
Man, there's other parts in other songs that are messed up. I mean,
nah, I'm just trying to get because I because
fade
I didn't
to
hear you talking.
capital.
I didn't hear you talking about being a father, being a husband. I didn't hear you talk about understanding your mom struggle from trying to be with the LGBT. I didn't hear all the other psychological stuff you
There,
did
there,
with the
there was
album.
that stuff in there.
Oh, okay. I just heard the negative.
Well, here's what I'm gonna say. I think that the most profound part of that was his
Mhm.
class position, and so that's
Yeah.
what I'm gonna focus on because that's what, for me, states his goals and objectives,
Mm.
right? And that's the way I read it. Um, I think that you can find something positive in almost everything that's been done, and you can also pull it back. In the
Mm.
case of Jay Z, I just don't see him. Obviously, I don't see him as you do.
Yeah.
I see
So
him as more enemy of our people than anything else.
and see, and that's the thing. That's the whole thing about life. It's your perspective.
Yeah,
Because with my perspective, I'm not looking at it like when I'm coming into it, I wasn't looking at it like, oh, well, let me look at it from a political lens. I'm looking at it as a growth lens. Like, okay, this brother has matured from talking about just the bling bling, uh, disrespecting women, blase blah, to where he's talking about, all right, I messed up being a husband. I'm working on being on the right track. There's certain things I never ever was able to talk about because I had to hold it up and bottle it in as being a man. So these are things I get from it. So another person from another perspective, coming from a political stance, if you're just looking for the politics, then that's what you're going to get from it. So that's what I'm saying. It's
Well,
like,
you read everything. Look, I read family life through a political lens, but look, I want to ask you a couple more questions.
okay,
And so here's the question. What is the link? Is there a link between music, black music, and its production and the black liberation movement? Is there a dialectic that occurs?
it's still a link. I think more people need to see struggle in this generation. The only time I seen any type of revolutionary song was from like Little Baby when the whole Eric Garner case came out. And with them not really seeing struggle and all them a lot of these kids are suburbians. A lot of these kids, that's buying music and stuff like that. And then they're not they're not seeing a lot of the racism like our older generation seen. So when I talk to my son, he's like, I don't see none of that stuff. I don't
Hmm.
see because he goes to an all black school. He goes to he's never had a white teacher. So it's like certain things he's never even seen. So he can't even relate to
But
the
he shops,
struggle.
right?
Huh?
He does go to malls.
Does he go to malls?
Yeah.
Not really.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yeah, his their life ain't like the same. They don't see out the same lens as us. So a lot of them can't relate to the struggle and liberation until something happens that affects them in their time. Like the
Let me
Eric
pull you
Garner.
back though.
Okay.
In other words, you you have a particular household that has a politic, a socialization that's occurring, and so your son and daughter, I don't think would be the modal experience of youth their age, meaning that you got them in an all black school with black teachers. That's not the norm. Black teachers are only, I think, now 2% of the teaching profession. So overwhelmingly, our folk are not being taught by black people. They've been taught by white women from rural, all
Mhm.
white communities who see them as junior beasts.
Well, that's because you live up north. Down south in the A is blackety blackety black everywhere.
No, that's in the A, but the A ain't all of Georgia.
It's not at all. So
Right.
yeah,
So I'm just saying that, yeah, there's going to be these pockets,
yeah.
but I'm saying that statistically, what your children are experiencing is not the average experience of black youth.
Mhm.
The average experience is they go to schools in which white people are in charge. They shop at stores owned by white folks. White folks are in charge. They are quartered off and policed by white police. Because I get these kids from the south side of Chicago,
Mhm.
and and we only get a handful of them now because the U of I, as a former president said, they wanted to. He was all for recruiting black kids, but he wanted them to be just like the white kids. So they were recruiting out of the suburbs, and they've now jacked that up to where they mainly recruit out of the suburbs. But you get some South Side and West Side kids every now and then, right?
Mhm.
But even with the suburban kids, once I have them write a paper, in other words, how did you become who you are?
Mhm.
And they always talk about that point where they came to realize that they were being discriminated against. It might have been an incident with the police. Often it's an incident with the
Yeah.
police. It might have been an incident at school. And for a lot of them, it's their first semester at the University of Illinois
Mm,
because the white friends that they had at their little elite academy, when they get to the U of I,
yeah.
those white friends are told very clearly, we don't hang with them. You need to kick them black folks to the curb.
Yeah.
And so they come wounded to African American studies, and we had to help them process that in the course of teaching history and culture. So when someone like you, Jared's kid, they're living a different
Yeah.
reality
Yeah. Definitely.
in
Definitely.
terms of the culture than the masses of our people.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You're right about that because it's a different experience. It's definitely a different experience here because I didn't have no black teachers till damn near college. So
I had my first black teacher in college.
yeah,
And and let's be clear, until uh, I had two in my first 2 years, and then I transferred to HBCU.
yeah. But you know what they say,
Yeah,
the most revolutionary thing is the black family. So with that being said, my son and my daughter go with me to organizational things and this, that, and the third. But when it comes back to the question of is it gonna be seen in the music, people keep as long as money and Bitcoin and all this other stuff is out here in their brains about financial literacy, and they gonna look at that as freedom, that's where they're gonna keep going. It's sad to say it, but you're gonna have pockets of us that's still doing it, where kids are, talking about liberation, but the majority that's gonna get played is gonna be by the ones that want us to only listen to that.
again, I'm gonna push back a little bit. I mean, I think that there's a lot of truth in what you just said,
Mhm.
but we've done surveys with black students at the University of Illinois, and you look at where we ask them, what is it that you want to do when you graduate? And one of the big things is that they tend to major in things like public health,
Mm,
right? And most of them talk about returning to the South Side and creating some kind of nonprofit or institution. A number of them talk about becoming entrepreneurs, and they believe that through capitalism they can liberate their people. Now, I disagree with them, but
mhm,
I understand that they their instinct is to try and make life for their people better.
mhm.
I just think they're wrong-headed, and they'll figure that out hopefully. But the point is that most of the students I've interacted with want to do something to make life better for our people. That they're not just chasing bling and that, and that they tend to be in the helping professions.
You talking about college students?
Yeah, I'm talking about black college students.
College students.
Yeah, I know. That's a very
They
I
A
know,
lot
I
of
know, I know,
them
I know,
got
I
an
know.
option. They
That,
got
that, that's
options.
28% of the population. I know. Of the youth population. I know.
Yeah, so they got options. They can do it, but a lot of people that don't have options, guess what? Get this money so I
Yeah.
can get out of my predicament.
That's why I said that much of what you say, there's a truth there.
Yeah,
I acknowledge that.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's 8:13, and we're gonna go to Q&A. But before we do, I want to ask: do you have any kind of summatory statement that you want to make? But wait a minute, you got to do a promo for Sundays. You didn't say nothing about your own show, so say something.
Okay. All right. Well, boom. Sundays, I do that every Eastern Standard Time at 8 p.m. Right here on Black Power Media. It's pretty much I just like to do a mix of music, but I like to rotate it and do different things where I'll do different genres. I'll do a certain artist and just play their music, or I'll bring in somebody like a host of one of the shows and talk to them and do an interview about their life through the music that they listen
Ah,
to.
Okay.
So like I just did that with Jared, and I just did that with Kim Brown. So I'll be calling you soon,
Okay.
and basically getting that understanding through that, and then just giving people a nice mix and showing how much different music is out there, and so that they can realize that it's not just trap music. It's not just one type of. We're not monolithic. We listen to all types of stuff. So that's my whole thing with that, and to bring musical education that way.
Okay. And music is vibration. And why is that important?
It's important because that's how we moved. It gives us our oomph. It gives us our thoughts in the morning. It's how we feel. It deals with our inner being. So if your insides ain't right, your outsides ain't gonna be right. And that's part of getting your insides right. You know.
That's a good. That's a very good point. So you got a summatory statement.
Oh, okay. So pretty much I love what I do. I love DJing. I love it, love it, love it. I'm blessed to be able to, the one thing I realized, and I was thinking about it before this interview, with both my parents being deceased while I was in my teens, it gave me the opportunity to learn on my own and not have somebody telling me how to live my life. So I got to experience and learn a lot of things. Like you said, I got to open up a pizza place while I was in college. I got to throw big parties while I was in college, and then after that, I did entertainment. I had DJs, MCs battling each other. I had,
Mm.
I think I had one or two jobs in my whole life, like working for somebody. I
Wow.
always
Okay.
because I was wanted. You know what happened is on my the money that I was, you get when your parents pass, that never came to me.
What?
So yeah, that's a whole nother story. So I had to work from ground up. You know what I'm saying? I had
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
build. I didn't have time to try to vacation, do this, that. I was grinding. So college for me was an opportunity to make money. My freshman year, I was selling t-shirts. I opened up a mixtape shop. I was doing all types of stuff just to get money, get money. So that helped me
So you're doing all kind of stuff to survive.
to survive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And it molded me to be the person I am, where, you know, some say I act a little older than I am and stuff like that, because I've matured quicker. I had to mature quicker. So I'm in a position now where I'm able to DJ. I'm able to do these podcasts, to bring more podcasts on, and to give a platform for people to speak, do my production on the Remix Morning Show, and bring that element of music and humor, and also learn at the same time. I always say I'm a
Mm.
student teacher because I'm surrounded by great minds. I'm surrounded by the chat room that helps to keep you accountable to certain
That's
things.
right. That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? And
Oh
I
yeah.
love all that. It's a blessing to do what I'm doing. And if you could find I would say this to people out there, if you could find your passion and it can make you money, go all in. I always knew I was going to be an entertainer somehow. From the beginning, from rapping, I was like, I'm going to
Mm.
entertain somehow. And I didn't have a plan B.
Okay. Well, here's to following a dream, realizing a
Exactly.
dream. So,
Exactly.
my brother, I have a question from Leah Boggs.
Oh boy. Leia, Aggies, where you at?
All right. Well, she asked, would the ear doctor say Drake was influenced by people like Mos Def, i.e., Yasmin Bey, who also sung and rapped?
Oh, definitely.
And I think she means more than just style.
Oh yeah, by Yasin Bey, by Fonte from Little Brothers. Let's take it back to Bobby Brown. He sang and rap too.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people that Curtis Blow was one of the first to sing and rap. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I mean, not even before that. What is his name? Goddamn, Count Basie. What was his name?
Mm.
He got the
Oh,
white
yeah, yeah. No, not
He's scatting.
your boy that was scatting. Howdy
Yeah,
ho, howdy ho.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, man.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
But wait a
So
minute, man. You know that in 40, is it 42? Langston Hughes releases an album. Um, uh, is it Mingus? The Mingus
Mingus.
band, and Hughes when he does this choreo poem that is about 52 poems that becomes one poem. It's man, it's the one that Dream Deferred is in, right?
Oh, okay.
It's a long list, but he performs it in front of Cab Calloway is
Cab
who we was trying
Calloway.
to get.
Thank you. That was killing me.
Yeah.
Cab Calloway,
Yeah,
James Brown. I mean, you got so many people that rap and sang from back
that's right.
then to now, but definitely
But
most
rapping was different when James Brown and Millie Jackson was doing it. It was just and Isaac Hayes. It was just talking. It
mm,
wasn't rhythmically. But you did have the black art poets,
yeah, and you had the
Barack,
the Lost
Nicky.
Poets. Yeah.
Yeah, the last poets for a
Last
damn
Poets.
show.
That's the Lost.
And Gil.
Yeah. So it's been around for a while.
Okay. So another question here.
All right. Now that the hard questions are over.
Yeah. So here's just an observation from James.
uh-huh.
And the observation is black capitalism takes on the personality of capitalism, exploitation.
Hmm.
Do you want to react to that?
James usually knows what he's talking about.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm still, like I said, I'm a student teacher. I'm still learning about, political education and stuff like that. I'm coming from a historical hip hop stance. That's where I come from.
Okay. One of the hard parts here is to stroll through
Oh yeah.
and find the questions. Okay, James has another comment here, and he says that he took some tenets of Islam because of Rakim, got the tattoos of the completion star from the back of the Fendi jacket. So I think he's just saying the way in which you were talking about having been influenced by LL Cool J, by others in terms of clothing style. I think that he's just making that comment.
Mm. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So here's a question: says that love and black liberation. This is breaking ground. Was neo soul, which was
Mm.
exiled from the industry. I got a whole playlist neo soul. Um,
What
so,
happened in
what,
Neo?
what do you think about that?
What happened in Neo Soul?
Yeah, yeah. Was it exiled from the industry?
It turned into Trap Soul.
Hmm.
And
Elaborate.
it was like a cuz like I would say neo soul came more in the late 90s to the
Yeah,
2000s,
yeah.
and after that then rappers started singing. Like you had little Wayne doing some singing, then you came in with the Drakes and this that and the third. So rappers started singing, and when it came to neo soul like the D'Angelos, the Music Soul Childs, the Jill Scotts, they
Hmm.
never stopped. It's just that their producers might have changed. Whereas then the producers started putting out different types of music and not just staying in that neo soul pocket. But I don't think they just
Neo
it
soul's
wasn't
still
making
around.
money. It
Yeah,
wasn't making money.
really.
I mean, when it comes to like hip hop, how big hip hop kind of
Yeah.
flushed a lot of other genres just to the side,
Right. Why
and
you think that was?
back to that thing about R&B going being dead, back to being about love. A lot of that music was about love, and like I was saying earlier, they don't want to promote love. They want to promote violence. They want to promote their material goods. They not trying to hear that love's crap.
Yeah, yeah. Now there's a question here. Um, and boy, I kept moving on because I was thinking I'd remember it. So
Mhm.
I can't say who put it in, but the question is this: where are the hip hop bands? And I think we can just expand that and say, where are the groups in black music other than jazz?
Hip hop bands are on more like a local level. Cause it's with back to capitalism and hip hop. All right. So you used to when I had a rap group, I had a dancer. A label's not paying for a dancer to go on the road. A label's not paying for a bunch of band members to go on the road. I think about it even when I'm DJing, you can pay a whole bunch of band members, or you can play one DJ to play all the music that a
Okay,
band.
but for decades, right? We had big band jazz. I mean, it wasn't just the trios. It was also septets. I mean, you had R&B groups, the Temptations,
Yeah,
New Edition,
yeah,
the funk bands. Goddamn, George Clinton had a village,
yeah.
and they were comfortable making that kind of money.
Yeah, well, when you go on tour now, and these record labels are the ones that's putting foot in the bill. They're like, listen, you can have a DJ that can play that same music, and you can have an MC. That's 2 tickets, airplane tickets I got to pay for instead of 10.
How does that affect the music, though? How does that affect the broader culture when decisions, what I would argue are decisions about artistic decisions, are being made on the basis of what the company will pay for in terms
Mm.
of hotel fees and airplane tickets?
Yeah. It takes I would look at it also as it takes away the musical aspiration of kids that want to learn about what they see visually. If they see a band performing, ooh, I want to play the trumpet. So now they're going to concerts and they're just seeing the DJ and a MC on stage just going back and forth. And now everybody wants to be what? A MC or a DJ.
DJ.
So
So yeah, because I think about Earth, Wind, and Fire and those damn shows that they used to
woo,
put on.
I can
And I
imagine.
think that the performative piece was central to the music and the lyrics. You know what I mean? Mighty, mighty, and then the way they. And I just wonder if there's something lost to the culture in
Mm,
terms of our communal ethic. If our music, which is at the center of the culture, is individualized and not group centered, communal,
mm.
I think we're losing something deeply and profound.
Yeah, we definitely are because it's being controlled by money. Hip hop, like we were saying earlier, hip hop more and more is trying to get taken away, and artists aren't able to freely do what they want and put a show together like they want and actually give you a performance. Like as you say, like Common Sense, he has a show where he does costume changes. You know what I'm saying? We don't get to see that out of a lot of artists. We don't get to see their full length of artistry. So, and then you got people like what's this kid from Texas? He got a whole Astro World. He has a whole it looked like a whole carnival when you go to his concerts.
Yeah,
And I mean, this is like it, and it takes you back to the Earth, Wind, and Fire days, the funkadelic days when they came down with the spaceship on the stage. So yeah, if they leave it up to the labels, they ain't gonna give you what you want. And that's where independent and black ownership of labels and your own team allows you to do what you want to do.
yeah, and so that's what we gotta have because I think Nelson George is right that you don't get that in the big companies, that
Mm-mm.
you only get that in the small companies, and it does work better if they're black owned. It'd be better if they were cooperatives,
Yes.
right? If they were cooperatives. Um, okay, we got less than 50 seconds.
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to say before we bring what I think was was a very interesting and energetic and very good discussion, brother.
Yes, it was. I
And
appreciate you.
you will be back.
Yes, yes, I made it. I made it for a second round.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, I would just like to say, just even talking about the different things I do, because a lot of people just think I just produce and DJ. Also, like we were saying earlier, I work with the Black Man Lab, and that's pretty much a rites of passage for youth to elders, because we all still need teaching and learning and growing. I also work with the Urban Tech Academy, which is going to help teach DJing, media, technology, and bring that all and be able to provide youth with jobs. Because I know a lot of people say, the tech space isn't a good space to be in, but that's where the world is going. And we got to be able to provide these kids with some opportunities, some type of jobs where they're not being left behind. So, and do it in a way where they're also getting some consciousness, having to read a book, having to
Mm.
get some knowledge, because we can't just give them all this technology talk and not, we can get them rich, but we can't have them rich and not having a code of ethics, not having to understand that this is for my community, this is for my people, this is why I'm doing this. So it's ways to do both. And I try to make sure that we're able to do both with this, and on the Remix Morning Show, we're able to see different perspectives, different sides, and not just think that our way is the only way to think. There's different ways to look at stuff, and we should at times give people a chance and then sit back and think about it before we attack what we think that we know. Because the smartest thing I ever learned is I don't know much.
I hear you. I genuinely
And
do.
I ain't got a problem with saying I don't know. And with that said, please tune into the Remix Morning Show Tuesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Check out Sundays on Sunday at 8 p.m. and just check out the whole channel. And thank you for having me here on Real Talk. This was very dope. Appreciate you.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you coming on the show,
No
and it
doubt.
was a wonderful discussion. And we are now out.